Hey everybody, I got a haircut, did a little trim, but we're gonna talk about some important things today. Let's see here. I got the Constitution I wrote. Let me try to scale this image. It's better. All right, so I've been thinking a lot lately about what we need to do to protect our people in the future. See, like I believe I'm a true American in spirit, right? I believe in the American Revolution as the most important historical event in human history, other than perhaps the formation of Rome under Justinian. As far as the liberty movement went, those were some of the most important things that ever happened for human history. Now, I know that there's been a whole lot that's happened, a lot of wars beyond the Revolutionary War that mattered. And I know there's been a lot of struggle and there's been a lot of achievements. You know, I mean, you could argue that the building of the pyramids in Egypt could be one of the most important things that ever happened in human history. Because it may have been a power plant, it may have been a super technological system that we can just barely even understand these days. We have some capacity to model it, but not entirely, and it is being shown that it is actually a waveguide. But that's not the point. The point right now is about the future of our people. So, what do you think? Where are we going to go? What do you think? So, I'm going to pull forward in this one and just show you what I was just working on. Um, it says, "We the people understand that we are immovable when we stand within our rights. We reserve all of our rights with prejudice. We will not tolerate a system that discriminates between us or which subjugates us in any form whatsoever. We are united in our cause, purpose, and common destiny." So I added, "We reserve all our rights with prejudice," which basically means that it can't be stripped away from us. We reserve all those rights and will not go back upon the reservation of those rights. The reservation of rights is permanent. Um, and we kind of go over a lot of that in the preamble. And there's just so many things to talk about in this Constitution. But since I want to make this structured and not just be about kind of a random rant, let's talk about some of the modern issues that people have been talking about, like digital identification. We did not outright ban it, we limited the ability of the government to use digital identification. So, one of the propositions is that the digital currency system will have the ability to use identification for the purpose of voting and maybe also to vet the contracts for payment. That is sort of what we would already have like in the banking system, and then also we'd have to vote for the government to have to show identification. This just allows us to use our phones to do it instead of needing to get a paper ballot and then put it into a ballot collection center or whatever, or fill it out at the location. So let's see. We do allow digital identification. However, in digital governance is basically the idea is for government participation through digital systems, since that's the main mode of people's interaction, and it's much more practical to get a populace to interact with an app on their phone than it is to get them to come to a certain location. So we allow digital identification. We cannot be required in my country to submit to biometric data, digital identification, or participate in any government database as a condition for accessing disaster shelters, supplies, or aid. Now, the spirit of the law is also going to apply in this, and that the spirit of the law is basically going to be not to submit for this for fundamentally for anything. There would be cases where they could require you to submit digital identification, but not only digital identification. Physical identification would be equivalent and acceptable. So they can't force you per se to submit digital identification, but for banking is one of the primary causes I could say, or like to prevent the purchase of psychoactive substances by somebody who's underage or not authorized. And you can build in the authorization they have to the digital ID that allows it to then be purchased at like a dispensary, medical marijuana for a kid. This is an example. A teenager is able to manage their affairs. Let's see here. The right of the people creates information. So we do have a lot of different things in here, but this is probably one of the more important parts. So we also protect against smart cities, and I'm going to try not to forget to get into that next. But right here at the very top, where it says digital identification I was trying to protect people from social credit system too, and I did build it directly into this provision that has to do with digital identification, but it's more of a limitation on the powers of government for futuristic, dystopian stuff. So I'm just going to read it to you, and then we're going to get into smart cities. So digital identification may be used by the government, but it can't be used to usurp your rights, and it may be issued by the government and should not require biometric identification information or be used as a means to track purchases or shopping locations, nor otherwise used to intrude upon the privacy of the individual. For all intents and purposes, they are merely digitized versions of normally physical identification to make sure that authentic user interactions are verified, such as for banking or the purposes of psychoactive substances, without logging and promoting transparency for its use and purposes such as electronic voting. They may not be used as means of control outside of those which are already lawfully permitted by normal physical forms of identification, to restrict access to products intended only for adults, or to ensure that access is granted to someone with a verified identity. No person shall be compelled to adopt or carry a biometric ID, digital passport, submit to behavioral or ideological assessment, or participate in any civic scoring system, nor personal reputation index or conduct rating, nor social profiling or societal trust framework, or community standing tier or approval level, or any other form of universal tracking credential to access public spaces, essential services, or to engage in business or trade, communication, travel, or to exercise any other right. Let's see. Digital, just say travel, just itself, travel within. Oh, stop. Don't do this. Stop. Within or outside of. Okay. Alright, that's a little bit better. Sorry. AI drafted that. I've been getting a little lazy with the Constitution writing since I already wrote 400 pages, and I just don't like to do it all the time. Or to exercise any other right, so that he can't require it. Participation in digital identity systems must be fully voluntary, opt-in, and revocable at any time without penalty or loss of other rights for abandoning its use or refusing to use it in the first place. Is that not good? Let's see here. We got Smart City, I think, in this. It should just show up. So, we have a law that makes it so no person can be forced into a smart city. So we have the definition of smart city here. I'm just going to scale this a little bit, make it look nicer for the recording. A smart city shall be defined as any urban or suburban settlement that deploys integrated, connected, automated, or data-driven technologies to manage energy, transportation, utilities, communications, housing, policing, resource allocation, or population movement, including but not limited to AI managed public services, drone delivery systems, or environmental monitoring. No person shall be compelled to reside within, work within, or transact solely within a smart city jurisdiction without full informed consent. All residents must retain the unconditional right to exit any smart city at any time with guaranteed access to non-digitized regions or communities within Cascadia. Any attempt to impose mandatory digital residency or forced relocation in or out of smart city zones shall be prohibited and prosecuted as civil coercion. Every smart city shall be required to provide and maintain robust, non-digital, non-tracked, cash-backed, and analog options for all basic utilities, and just say, manage population movement. And that is an issue right here. So you gotta wonder. I mean, that's what they say it is. We could change this to, well, I wouldn't say population movement. I would, instead of that, I would do something like shake it out, right? Or you could say credential management, or not management, but like credential access. But that's a problem. That's exactly what they want. Like to enter your apartment, to show your credentials instead of just use your key, right? So we're gonna remove that. Anyway, so let's continue. Any attempt to impose mandatory digital residency, blah, blah, blah. Every person has the right to live an analog life unconnected from digital infrastructure to transact in physical currency or barter. The physical forms and legacy media formats were available, and to legacy media formats were available in decline integration with any smart or algorithmic urban environment or infrastructure without loss of civil or economic rights. Any critical infrastructure and resources controlled by automated or algorithmic systems shall include a permanent, non-networked, fully mechanical override under the sole authority and direct control of randomly selected body of 10 sovereign persons local to the systems, capable of shutting down such systems in the event of abuse or failure. So, I mean, obviously, you give everybody access to the button, someone's just going to push it anytime. Give it to a small number of people, the odds go down. They know who has access when they access it. That will reduce the amount of abuse, most likely, because of pressure to be honest and people knowing what you're doing and then revoking your access if you do abuse it. So, having limited number of people to revoke access from helps control total amount of access to that shutdown switch. Of course, having 10 people get knocked out at a time because AI is taking over is another thing, but we're not exactly sure that's going to happen anytime soon. It could take 75 years or more before that even gets close. They haven't quite gotten a simulated consciousness yet. They're just working on models. Remember how long AI has been operating, and it's mostly been the same. After deep learning came out in like 2005 or somewhere around there, is when I remember hearing about it. Then I would say, or was it 2010? Might have been 2010. Anyway, close to that period of time, it's been 15 years, and they're just starting to integrate what's called the global model, the global workspace of consciousness into AI, which has had a lot of benefits. But anyway, about this Constitution. So, I mean, you can go into it. This is on cascadiaplan.wordpress.com, although you're not going to see the exact version I got because I'm working behind the scenes and my Android phone will not let me copy all 400 pages and paste all 400 pages into a web browser. So, that's the reason why I'm not able to keep all my shit up to date online. I can do it when I get to the library because all I'll do is I email this as a text file to the library computer through my email, and then I'll load it through the library computer, copying and pasting it into the web browser for WordPress. But cascadiaplan.wordpress.com has got this whole constitution. But let's go over things. So like Citizens Court, I'll just start explaining maybe, and I'll make the length of this video. I want to try to not pad it out, but keep it like real, because I only show a limited amount of what's actually going on with this because I only have so much to say at a time. But the Citizens Court, right? The idea of the Citizens Court is basically, instead of when we normally have Supreme Court rulings, because like an inmate is complaining either they are falsely arrested or that they have not committed a crime or that they should not still be incarcerated or whatever it is. And I actually have to go in a minute, but let me just talk about this for a second. That when we have the government be the one that decides whether a right has been violated, we then surrender all of our rights to the government to be the arbiter over us, when it is we the people who have the real power and should always remain in control over our government. So when the government is become the arbiter over our lives, we should not just take that lightly. So having a citizens court would allow the people to be the decider in cases of where rights are at stake instead of the government, and they still have to operate under the principles of due process of the law and in conformity to the Constitution as like a jurial body. And we have a jurial magistrate, and that jurial magistrate operates like a normal magistrate, but they also are in a consulate or a consular. So that there are three consuls that operate as one jurial body, or as one magisterial body in the jurial sense, which I call judex judice, which is basically the judge of the people, or people as the judge. So, that's what that has to do about. We'll get back to this later. Give me a second and I'll come back to you. Alright, so we're back. Citizens Court, though. We have private citizens operate in conformity to the Constitution, be the deliberators of justice. It's very important. I think it may be one of the greatest safeguards against tyranny that will ever be established, because then we can't have judicial precedent set by the government that is used continuously, like has been for firearms against felons. And it's just one example of plenty. For example, the price fixing that they can do with crops made it so that in Wickard versus Filburn, I believe Filburn was the farmer, and he lost his ability to feed his chickens without the Commerce Clause coming in the way. It was used against a medical marijuana grower one time, an old lady who needed it. She was like in her 70s or something, who needed medical marijuana. And this is just one of the reasons why I think Citizens Court is more important, because they are the people who actually have their rights at stake. The government are the rulers who have the people at best equal to them, even though the people are supposed to be over the government and only equal in their humanity and their rights when an individual function of an individual person, but not in the function of office. So that's just one of the reasons why we have it like that. There's so many things. You could scroll through this thing for days even and try to figure out like what it all means. It basically means that natural rights and natural justice are the primacy of the law, and that we have also decided that we want to integrate as many of these progressive realizations of our rights, increasing, improving the quality of the enumeration of them, the number of rights enumerated, because they're numerous and indefinite. If the powers of the states are numerous or indefinite, and those powers stem out of the rights of the people, right? Because states don't have rights, people do. And people confer power to government. They say states' rights, it's people's rights. People of that state who establish that state have rights, and that state has autonomy given to it by the people, with powers that have been vested from the people into that state, never to exceed those powers of the people, and never to have a right whatsoever, because it is a state and not a person. So when we consider the state versus the people, that's what we're talking about it. But when people get confused, when I'm talking specific, it could be contract right of those people to have the state established and have the state represent them. And that's what we talk about, the actual real distribution of power, which stems out of the individual to their property, to their area around them, their neighborhood, and then to like their municipality in the district or whatever. Okay. These are just examples, though, of reasons why we need to have like the Citizens Court. We need to have. I'm sorry. I'm having a Joe Biden moment. Excuse me. So I don't even exactly remember. We're talking about the distribution of powers and the people, right? But there's just so much like, what the purpose of this all is, right? The purpose of all of this is to enumerate the natural law, pretty much. Although it's not really natural law. This is human law, you can tell. But I have a very high preference for these natural rights to be enumerated. So we have, this is definitions portion and clarifications, which is used sort of to set the context, or whatever you want to call it, of the ratification of this Constitution, or the original intent to be enumerated to a certain degree into the Constitution itself, to further protect the interpretation of the document. And how things like Supreme Court work in this country is that the people would be the decider of a case where the Constitution is called into question about the rights of a person. Okay? Or due process being one of those, the actual length of term of their incarceration, this is an example, or whether or not they have performed a fundamental evil that requires a punishment, and if they were punished unjustly for restitution, and even treason trials against people who mostly prosecute them. These are just examples of the reasons why things are the way they are. So what my real purpose behind this Constitution originally was, after just marijuana legalization, was a large Bill of Rights. And then it sort of turned into also like free things that people can get out of the government if the government is not using taxes to fund it. Then it's just as free as a hot dog sample or whatever you get at Costco. Okay? They might still be paying something for it, but you're getting it for free. And nobody forced them to give it to you. And you're there lawfully. And the reason I use Costco as an example, it's a private company, is because we have competition with the private sector, with the public sector. We have a free market of private versus public that compete, equally regulated, to raise the revenue for the government. No taxes. And that is supposed to be the most libertarian way to do things. So anybody arguing against it doesn't have a good plan. They'll be like, that's communism. They don't even know what the hell they're talking about. It's not communism. It's not even socialism. Socialism is the abolition of private property. I mean, the abolition of capitalism, right? Communism is the abolition of private property, which also includes, in some people's, like John Locke might even say, that right of yourself, and you're surrendered as a blob into society. So, give me a second. I need to kind of, rearrange my neck, get a cigarette rolled, and we'll be right back. So I got this set up in the lazy man's position. Is it recording? Cool. The purpose behind this Constitution is not about free stuff. It's a cool idea. The government can theoretically be a good entity that would be philanthropic and give you things. Well, it's about the actual amount of money that's available, and that's where the real issue with my Constitution is found. It makes a lot of promises. The government will provide many different things, all mostly through the states. Okay, not all of them, but most of all of them through the states. And that would then require the states to have these huge industries that power everything the government is doing. And the larger the expenditures of the government, the larger those industries have to grow, or at least the more the price has to go up, and the bottom line becomes more important than necessarily the quality. For example, controlled obsolescence, I mean designed obsolescence, although I believe we outlawed designed obsolescence, so that technically doesn't apply. It's still a pretty hard thing to try to enforce if something is designed obsolete, or if it was just made crappy, right? Because how do you, without regulating all of the industry, pretty much make it so that they can't sell smartphones that break in 4 months? Yeah, it's not impossible to do, because you could even use the government to set up a basic warranty where if a product fails within a short period of time, it has to be replaced by the manufacturer. And that would still be designed obsolescence, but it wouldn't be at least as profitable. It wouldn't be about the bottom line as much in that case, and it would kind of push them to just do one thing or the other, make all this waste, which they might do because they get a whole new series of industries out of it. Trust me, it's insane how this neo-feudal, post-capitalist shit's happening. Capitalism's not bad. I'm in favor of capitalism. I'm a capitalist myself. I already wrote a book, and I'm trying to sell it. Although I'm not doing it necessarily to make the money, because I'm also on Social Security, and I don't want to lose my Social Security, because I'm definitely going to make a lot more money with my book. With Social Security than my book. Most people are not trying to buy a Constitution. You're looking at my book. My book's free online. Anybody who has access to a printer can print it. Anybody who's willing to hole punch it can punch it. Anybody wants to put those little white stickers on all those pages to make it, it's like 200 pages, to make it not tear, you can do that. Put it in a binder, and you've got a book. You made it, and you made it probably cheaper than you can print it on my fucking printing service. And that's another thing. The book. So the book, I'm trying to publish the book in September. However, if my expenditures go over a certain amount, there's no real space in the budget to pay for that to happen, because it costs $400 up front to do it, and it will get published on 5 publishers. I'm not sure exactly what the number of publishers. I've seen they said 10 publishers, and it said 5 on the ad, so I don't know, but I'm going to talk to them about it, and it looks pretty bona fide. Advertise me on Facebook. Their book publisher, I just don't know that many book publisher fraud scams. I haven't really heard of that before. It seems like a niche fraud for sure. all I need them to do, technically, is just format it and submit it to Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Google and Apple and whatever the fuck. When they do that, that's all I want is my name on the platform in my book, and people can buy it. After that, my plan is to give these books away to spread the information. It's like advertising, okay? Now, I can spend 50 cents a sheet to make color advertisement and post it up somewhere. But the thing is, if I'm trying to sell a commercial product, it changes the freedom of speech because then the government can regulate it a little bit. So if I'm trying to sell a product and I put it up in a space that might not be fully public, like a street lamp, but more like the side of a building that's unoccupied that no one's using, right? Because there are those in my town, there's abandoned buildings. Put them up on the side of abandoned building. I'm advertising an idea, right? I can do that more than I could advertise like my book. So it's 50 cents a sheet. I print up 60 sheets and put them up. Or I can do one book, roughly that amount. Close to $30 for the book. It might be 25. But I know for a fact that if I put out the book and someone picks it up, they have that book. I can't guarantee they read it. But it gives them the real opportunity to read it. Instead of just, oh, I'll bookmark it on my phone and then forget about it, right? Like I've done on my shit too. So, by putting these books in the little free library that we got in here in Eugene, Oregon, if I print like 5 books up on demand and get them shipped to me, and I put them in these little free libraries, then when people pick them up, they got access to my plan, man. And it's like revolutionary political literature that's so sanitized in the sense because it doesn't like really have a call to action. Sort of at the very beginning, the preamble, it gets close to that. And the Declaration of Independence I've got is really teetering on the edge of what government would allow me to say and what I get in trouble for, which is a problem in itself. But what we're working towards is a free society, a civil society, a system that does not abuse the people, but it emancipates the people. And it encourages the people, and it promotes the people. And this is exactly what we've been working towards for thousands of years on this planet. But we're getting closer now with my work, and I admit sometimes it's a little lazy. So, like for an example, we'll put in civil law, and we have the civil law. It just says Roman civil law, right? And then we end up explaining it's the Justinian Codex not the code. It's the whole code of Rome. I can't remember the name in Latin. And the Roman code under Justinian, except First Constitution and the commentaries of the law. That is considered good law in my country. I actually got recommendation from somebody who was, like a bachelor's in political science. I'm not exactly sure beyond just political science what they specialized in. It's my grandpa, Stephen Konoff, and he told me that he thinks that the Roman civil law should be used instead of the common law. But I am a fan of the common law and some of the things in common law, so I incorporated them all. Yeah. And so the Constitution sets out directly certain things that can theoretically contravene anything else that might be partially integrated to it. So we've done that by this provision that you can see right here. Any statute erected or judicial ruling which is opposed, firstly, to this Constitution, secondly, the Roman civil law, and thirdly, the English common law, and finally, of the contract law, shall be null and void, and struck down immediately, with all those imprisoned beneath them released, grant amnesty, pardon, expunge, restitute, or left open press their own civil suit, and left open press or launch criminal complaint against their aggressor or government or actors in any league of them operating in illegitimate authority, unjust or illegitimate authority, whatever fuck. Yeah, sometimes I can't read it all. I can read it, I can see it, so it says, just can't like say out loud necessarily as easy. But it doesn't make me incompetent. I mean, I wrote most of this whole fucking thing. There's a few things I grabbed off the internet that I incorporated into it. But if we're talking about, like, I'm gonna just scroll and scroll and scroll. We can scroll all day, guys. I mean, not literally. I'm taking like 2 minutes to scroll through this whole fucking thing. But just to land on a spot. Alright, so this is Congress, it looks like, right here. We got Congress. And they're making space stations. People are like, what the fuck is the government need to go into space for? Well, the main idea is that we're going to get cheap outer space travel, and the government's going to subsidize it pretty much. So you're going to be able to go to the moon for like $5 American. That wouldn't be too bad, would it? And you live to come back, and it's not a horror the whole time either. You're not like choking on little oxygen in your spacesuit. You actually get you can buy a sandwich as you're on the moon. I don't know, something. They got a little moon farm or something going on out there, right? Something cool. They might be making soil, manufacturing soil using basic regenerative, restorative horticulture practices on the moon to create usable fucking substrate for a real moon farm. It's just an example. Like, moon farming sounds kind of dumb because we're going to have like vertical cities and farms aren't really going to work the same probably in the future, but you still need soil if you're making good farms, because aquaponics, you can't do that with fucking, oh, actually, I think you can do, yeah, never mind. I thought you need to run the water through soil, but I'm wrong. You don't have to run it through soil. You just have to run it through something. It filters the water. The roots can grab the nutrients through. But anyway, so like this moon-based thing I'm talking about, we want to be able to make it so that it's an actual government power they're able to exercise to do those things. And we have more than one function in the post office, more than just shipping things. They're gonna have a fucking social media program. And Alex Jones suggested that. So, saying, oh, it's a bad idea, the government has social media. Now you're asking for a nightmare. At least have to obey the Constitution, including the right to privacy. It's illegal for the government to sell your data. That's good, right? Yeah. Something that puts the power of the people instead of in the hands of corporations. You have to choose at some point in time. Do you think the power in the hands of the people or the corporations is better? Because the government is theoretically putting it in the hands of the people, although not all the time. We know that. So, yeah, bus stations, air space stations. It's cool. This is good stuff. I don't know why people will be against it when we live in the future now today. Also, this gives the government the ability to create a commerce system that they can sell products in that doesn't even put into question, because the government power it right there to have a system of highways and spaceports and all this shit. We also got free internet is one of the ideas I had. In fact, all this free stuff kind of started with the free internet plan. And I was like, free internet's really not that hard to implement, and it's not that hard to keep free, especially if you use mesh networks. You only need to have a couple like IXPs that talk internationally, most like that, in order to get it to work. Like the whole country itself, to actually set up the internet inside the country is fucking not that expensive. $200 per light post. The posts cost more than that, but the actual internet module to put inside of it to make it be able to run this mesh network, it repeats with high speed. Yeah, it's approximately $200 to put that in. Put a solar panel on it, we'll add $100, $300. Free internet for 5 to 10 fucking years, and it pays for itself compared to what you pay for a subscription. Right? So the plan is eventually that we'll have a somewhat of a utopian society. And we talk about post-scarcity in here. Alright, let's see, where's it at? There it is. Government being intended for the benefit of the people and rightful establishment thereof being derived from their authority alone, we the individuals and people of our several states of Cascadia, in order to form a more perfect union, secure and advance the blessings of liberty and freedom and autonomy and independence to ourselves and our descendants, establish an equitable system of justice and promote domestic peace and serenity of the people, provide for the common defense, enhance the lives and health as well as the safety of inhabitants and visitors and guests, respect privacy, protect the people and their properties from natural criminal transgressors, including from abuse of power by the state, serve the people as assets, secure their pursuit of a good way of life, assist and safeguard suppression along with deconstruction and overthrow of systems of arbitrary power, as well as institutional injustice, in addition to oppression and repression and tyranny, elevate the general welfare of the people, assist in the attainment and maintenance of individuals, all Cascadians' Maslowian needs, insofar as reasonably humanly possible, especially in the achievement of post-scarcity, and protecting the natural wealth and heritage of ourselves and our posterity, do ourselves ordain and establish this Constitution for the Cascadia of sovereign people. We set forth to bequeath a legacy of respect and truth, rights, and justice, and establish governments not perpetuated from barbarism and brutality, but rather compatible with and compliant to compassion, sympathy, empathy for persons. We, the people who ordain and establish this Constitution, intend for rights protected and justice established by this Constitution to belong to all natural persons. And the reason we say natural persons instead of all natural people is because persons, according to the sovereign citizenship I've heard, is a denigrated term. And basically what it means is that the people who are a person, per se, they're not really people is what the idea is. And that a person is treated differently by law than the people, or people as a word. We want this to be the rights of everybody. So theoretically, if somehow the whole world was colonized, this would be the rights of everybody in that system. Very long. It's got, I don't know, like 20 different sections of a Bill of Rights, which cover, including decimal points between them, that cover every single facet of imaginable right that I was able to come up with. I kind of scroll through it just because we've got so many different things to look at. We don't really regulate anything of the peoples, though. We regulate the government in the Constitution. Now, while it's true that commerce will be regulated, we also restricted the amount of regulation that's possible. The government doesn't have as much power in this system as it does under the United States. Even though we expand the scope of some of the enumerated offices of the government and its powers, it doesn't have more power over the people, per se. The power over the people is done away with, and the people have power over the government. And that is really fucking important. It's not even a democracy, it's a republic, but it's a democratic republic. It's a social democracy and a republic, technically, and it's not democratic and socialist. This is hard to explain to people who don't know. But if you're like futuristic kind of conservative, and you're really conservative because you believe in natural rights, right, then this is going to work for you. We don't really encode a traditionalist society or anything. We do deal with abortion, and we have what's called a balanced interests perspective of abortion, including it requires both the man and the woman, or at least both partners in the case of cloning, to consent to the abortion. So if take someone's DNA and from a woman and cross it over into another woman by doing horizontal gene insertion, it's not really cloning, I guess. The case of the egg donor and the DNA donor, I guess theoretically there could be an agreement contractually whether or not an abortion can happen. But that's not really where I wanted to leave this off on. I just wanted to say the real reason this exists is because I took it upon myself to do the work that nobody else is willing to do, or had the time to do, or understands how to do. So, that was my job, and I fucking took it seriously. So check out cascadiaplan.wordpress.com someday, and we'll have a book hopefully by October the 1st, if I'm lucky and everything works out the way I hope. So we'll see about that. Stay tuned.